Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Earth Embodied Leadership Council. My name is Luna Love, and I'm sure you've already received a message about the mishap in recording the live version of this last week. So, for all of those of you who signed up who weren't able to make it live, we wanted to re-record our sections to be able to offer you the council. So, one of the things that I read in the beginning of the council, I'm just looking for it, is our welcome. And so I thought I'd read it again here because it's a great way to start. And even though we're not all live together, I'd love to read this. And I invite you to close your eyes and just breathe and pay attention to the words and feel your own sense of welcoming and calling in. We would like to welcome people on all parts of the continuum of gender identity and expression. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, heterosexual, transgender, queer folks, the sexually active and the celibate, and for everyone whom those labels don't apply, we say, welcome. People of African descent, of Asian descent, of European descent, of First Nations descent in this land and abroad, and people of mixed and multiple descents and of all languages spoken here, we say welcome. Your bodies and bodies of all shapes and sizes, of all abilities and challenges, those living with chronic medical conditions, visible or invisible, we say welcome. People who identify as activists and those who don't. Mystics, believers, non-believers, seekers of all kind, those who practice the old ways, all ancient and enduring earth-honoring traditions, witches, pagans, pantheists, and wild creatures, people of all ages, those who support us to be here, we say welcome. Your emotions, joy, fear, grief, contentment, disappointment, surprise, outrage, anger, and all else that flows through you, we say welcome. Your families, genetic and otherwise, those dear to us who have died, our ancestors and the future ones, the ancestors who lived in this land and the place where these buildings are now. We honor you through this work that we are undertaking, and we say welcome. We welcome all the plants, the green beings, the grasses and herbs, the flowers and cacti and shrubs, the tall trees from all places, redwood, oak and pine, cedar and willow, cypress and yew, the trees from all the rainforests and swamps, the river bottoms and deserts, and also your wonderful companions, the mushrooms, the fungi that enroll and hold all your soil and decompose your bodies to enrich earth, we say welcome. All non-material beings of this place and all places, beings of the wild, the forest, the desert, the ocean, as well as of this particular place, whether it is still intact and wild or domesticated and paved over. We welcome you with the names the people native to this place gave you, and by the names by which you know yourselves, and we say welcome. All beings that inhabit earth, human or otherwise, the two-legged, the four-legged, winged and finned, those that walk, fly, and crawl, above the ground and below, in air and water, we say welcome. So with that, I want to welcome all of you to the Earth Embodied Leadership Council. And I began the council, and so we did this in this order with myself beginning, and then Shayna, and then Charlie, and then Gogo Ikaya, and they became more subtle. And so we always begin with the self. And so I'd love to just introduce myself. I'm Luna Grace Isbell Love. I'm a woman of devotion, a soul midwife and mentor, transformational leadership guide and mentor, and host of the podcast Radical Remembrance. And I assist today's leading changemakers in sharing their full presence while aligning with their highest passion and purpose and potential. And I'm devoted to social justice advocacy through council work and the dissolution of separation, both internally and externally. And today I'm here to talk to you about traversing your inner landscape. So before I begin, my intention is to really share in a way that allows us to come together, to learn to honor and tend to our emotional self through mapping, acknowledging, and clearing buried trauma, developing communication, and really tuning in to deeply, deeply listen to the body. This is really the key. And in so doing, being in full integrity with your mission. So this is traversing your inner landscape. It's so much about the self, but it's really all as a foundational piece to service, which is the linking piece to leadership, which I'm going to talk about. So it's just an honor to be here with all of you today. And I just want to acknowledge you for signing up and for holding the intention of this council with us, and for how we can all choose to lead in the world. So how is what I'm talking about earth embodiment? Well, if you know what biomimicry is, it's mimicking nature, biology, how things naturally function. And so we are biomimicking the earth as an organism that feels and expresses and moves energy. And emotions are just energy and motion if we allow them to move. And when we allow them to move through us, we move ourselves into a new place of being. And when we don't, and when we suppress, and when we avoid, and when we numb, and when we neglect, that creates stagnancy. And so when we mimic the earth, there's this quality of permission to express ourselves. There's also the quality of responding to our environment, right? The earth is constantly responding to her environment, to the changes, and then adapting. And we get to do the same thing. And it's really about what I said is movement, really moving through things and avoiding stagnancy. So earth embodiment, these are qualities of being: permission, expression, responsive, movement. All of these things are qualities of being that we can embody ourselves, that the earth models for us to show us the way. And so what I'm not here to do is give you a map to how to tend to the emotional self, but to teach you how to become your own cartographer, to navigate the landscape. And just like you would if you were on a hiking adventure, you would note your environment. You would note where there's peaks, where there's valleys, where there's things to avoid. And the more you explore this area, the more familiar you could become. And the more you could draw the map and know where, when it rains, this area floods, and you can build things to support the movement of that water to a particular place, right? So just like we would do that with our external environment, to become more into it, we would explore it, we would spend time there, we would become intimate with it. This is the only way we can create this map, is by exploring and spending time in these places. And so we have this internal topography as well, that has peaks and valleys and troughs and flooding and challenges and danger zones and flood warnings and tsunamis and all the earthquakes and all the same types of things. Rocky areas, smooth areas, moist areas, damp areas, dry areas. And these are related to emotions. And so let's just begin with what emotions are. Emotions are physiological responses to our thoughts. So our thoughts are feeding it's a cycle. So our thoughts feed our emotions shape our experiences, and then our experiences create beliefs, and then that cycle repeats itself, because our beliefs feed our thoughts feed our emotions create experiences, those experiences create beliefs, and then the cycle repeats and repeats. And so when we're exploring this valley, this landscape that is our own inner landscape, we get to see what's there. We get to explore what's there. And so many of these things are the beliefs. The topography is often the beliefs and the thoughts, and the movement that meets these, whether it's the wind, anything like that, internal. This is what is creating the emotions. So this emotions are the movement. And so how is this leadership, right? This council is all about earth embodied leadership. And so we're thinking about leadership, we're redefining it. It's leadership as a whole, as circular, as breath, as healing, as holistic. And as we navigate and tend to our inner landscape, this is one of the greatest things that we can do to model the willingness to be present with ourselves and other emotions. In today's day and age, this is one of the greatest things we can do. And what I think is our greatest danger is the lack of empathy for ourselves and others, just being able to feel and be with the emotions that are present and really allow them to take up space. So to be empathetic, to be willing to feel and allow emotions to take up space is an act of leadership, because we're really shifting the model. And we're shifting that model from productivity to presence. So we're learning how to prioritize presence with ourselves and others over getting things done. And that productivity mindset that we gain a lot of self-identification of value from. And the idea that others view us as more valuable when we produce more, when we do more, when we get more done, versus the presence that we offer in the spaces that we enter. And so we're really shifting that. And we do this by exploring. So the emotional process that we're going to dive into is really a simple 4-step process. And there are so many steps after it that naturally happen that you don't need to do anything about. So I love to think of this example of the kid in the pool who's going, mom, 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 who just wants to jump in and have their parent watch them. These are our emotions. These are the sensations that are happening in the body that are asking for our attention. And sometimes the parent is having a conversation with somebody else and can't even hear the child, doesn't even know that the child is speaking to them. So the first key is awareness, right? So we're aware that something is calling for us. We're aware of the sensation. We're aware of the annoyance. We're aware of what is present. The second thing is acknowledging it. So we can be aware of it, but to acknowledge the child's request for our attention is a totally different thing. We can keep having the conversation and just let that go, and maybe it'll stop and maybe it'll continue. Or we can acknowledge it and say, hi, I'm in the middle of something. I hear you. I see you. I hear you. And I don't have time right now, or I'm not, I'm going to finish this conversation, or like, I'd love to give you my attention. And this is how we relate to our emotions. We're either aware of them or we're not. We either acknowledge them or we don't. And we can acknowledge them and not give them space right then and there outside of the acknowledgement. And so then the third piece is accepting and welcoming. Welcoming that this is what is, right? The child is asking for our attention. It just is what is. We can welcome it and accept it as our experience, or we can try to resist it and change it and judge it and avoid it. And then the fourth step is the expression, is really allowing the space for whatever that sensation is calling for us to be felt. And so the feeling piece comes as we accept and welcome. We naturally have to be with it, right? If we're going to welcome it, if we're going to let it in, we're going to be with it. And we can be with it to the degree that we allow ourselves at that time, to whatever capacity is available at that time. And then it's the expression, what wants to be expressed in that space from feeling. So one of the things that I want to share is that you don't have to know how. You just have to be willing. You don't know how to take these steps in your own life. You just have to be willing to cultivate awareness, to acknowledge what arises, when it arises, to accept it and welcome it, and be willing to feel it. And to be willing to express yourself. When you're willing, the how, like what that looks like, if you don't have a tangible example of what those things might look like, the willingness will show you the way. So my share in today's counsel is really just an invitation for you all to step forward in a new way, or a deepened way, as a leader in your own life, in your community, in your family, in your work, in your organization, in whatever it is that you lead, even if it's just yourself. And know that as you're witnessed in your way of being, that is tending to the inner space. And tending, I often think of as like a parental word, in the ideal sense of the ideal parent, the parent that we all wish that we got. And it's attending to, or the way we tend a garden, it needs presence, it needs attention, it needs empathy, it needs to be felt. Oh, this is dry. Oh, it needs more of this. Oh, it needs more of that. These are the conditions. And being aware of the emotional conditions and the environmental and the verbal conditions that shape and create these emotions, and learning how to change the variables. If you're in an abusive relationship, that's a variable that can be change that will create a different effect. We still have to cultivate the same emotional process of being able to tend to ourselves. And it's being aware of the environment. Oh, this needs a bigger pot, the way that we tend to things. So I really want to just like invoke this as an invitation of leadership. So this is what I shared in the council on Friday. We all got about 15 minutes or so, and then there was time for questions and answers. I don't remember the questions that were asked about this. There were a few comments that were affirmative and some shares about people's own journey and challenges in this. And so if that comes up for you, I'd love to hear from you. And I encouraged you to watch these together because they really built on one another. And Shayna's share on community and Charlie's on plants, I believe. I have to double check. And Gogo's on co-creating with the unseen. These are powerful tools that together, this council of four, we really became pillars holding up something together, creating this holistic approach to this council, which created this embodiment of earth and reflecting those qualities into leadership. So I hope that you enjoyed this. And we also shared just some offerings. So Shayna will put these in the email with some links, and you can always check out my work at lunaloveleadership.com and follow me on Instagram at lunagraceisabellove. And I have an upcoming new guide, a download guide to self-inquiry and booklet and ebook and guide to help bring you into greater alignment. So that alignment guide is coming soon. And I don't think that you'll have the link yet, but if you sign up for my list, you'll be able to get it. In addition, I have 2 spots left for my 6-month one-on-one mentorships and my 9-month group mastermind, Muse Mastermind, which is counsel and format, really supporting women to deepen in their alignment while creating something in the world, creating their heartfelt dream, a project that really allows the intersection of human and holy, to the human, the doing, the being here, the tangible to be done, and the spiritual aspects to grow together and be feeding and nourishing and informing one another. So that's my favorite program. This is the 4th year, and that starts in April, and the doors will open in March. So if you're interested in any of those, if you just sign up to my list on lunaloveleadership.com, you can get to know all of these opportunities or follow me on Instagram. So thanks so much for being here, and I look forward to connecting with some of you soon. Thanks so much, and bye for now.